This is Mongolian Mindset, and you guys know once a week we do a typing for me. And today we're going to be looking at two things. We're going to be looking at Uhtred of Bebbanburg, and we're going to be looking at the actual actor. If you guys like this type of content, please subscribe. Subscribe helps us grow the channel. It helps us grow the group. And you guys know we're all about reinvesting in Mongolian Mindset, which is the team. We are still doing free typing sessions, so all you have to do is join our Facebook group or join our Discord and message our moderator Cody with your availability. We're still working on calendar to get that easier set up for you guys. But if you have never seen the show The Last Kingdom, there's a guy named Uhtred in there. He's a badass motherfucker. The first time I watched that show, 2015, I said to myself, that guy is my older brother. And if you don't know, my older brother is a ENTP. And Uhtred of Bebbanburg is 100% ENTP. He's informative. He's NEDOM. He's all about action. He's 8W7 ENTP. They have him as ISFP. That's 100% wrong. If you watch the show, you understand that Uhtred doesn't care about titles, anything like that. All he wants is his little name bear. He's one of the greatest warriors. He could have easily set off and tried to do his own thing and be king, because he does have that kind of a following. But we're going to look at the tribute here so you guys get a little insight of it. But he is 100% an ENTP 8W7.
My work must continue. This land must grow, and England must emerge. And that is why you are here, Uhtred.
This is what an 8W7 ENTP looks like. I would say Andrew Tate is also one.
King Alfred, just why I am here.
Uhtred is a man of his word.
I must honor my word. I swore an oath of loyalty, and it stands.
The great Lord Uhtred and his army.
You are a great warrior, Uhtred.
There's multiple times in the show where Uhtred could have taken the titles for kings, land, multiple things, and he decided not to do that. So yeah, he's TI user.
Pleading for your life. You know that in time I would kill you, as I've killed your friends and your brothers. Stage Slayer! I know you're afraid to fight me. Fight me! The gods like to see me fight. If death is what you want, then you shall have it! Follow me and I will take you down a hard, brutal path.
Follow me, and I'll take you down a hard and brutal path. It's a journey.
It is a path that leads to the one thing every true warrior desires.
Talking about what other people desire.
Reputation. Today I stand with you as a simple soldier, but I ask that on the field, you once again let me guide you. We can defeat them if we stay united. Trust me! And follow. I'm Uhtred of Bebbanburg. You know me as a man who speaks the truth. So hear me when I
Speaks the truth, T.I.
say for the common good. Stand down. Let this end with peace.
Uhtred, Lord of Bebbanburg, just as you always wanted.
I said that if you proved yourself to be the rightful king, I would swear Northumbria to you. These lands will remain Northumbria's and Northumbria's alone. I will not become part of England in your lifetime. The man who can unify this country must be a figure behind which the people can stand together as one. You have shown that you are not that man. Northumbria recognizes the new king, Ethelstan.
Do not assume Ethelstan will be king.
All the warrior kings I have known, Albert, Knut, Bloodher, all have faced defeat in the end and have taken others with them. Become Viking now to extinguish an idea of England. Dreaming that some people once sought to kill each other.
Destroy the settlement.
Without it, we go back into an age of darkness.
Do we finally face defeat?
Perhaps losing my sword was a sign that my battle days are over. Breaks my heart to drag you to this fight.
Tell me, where does it come from? This courage. You have suffered greatly, and for what?
Uhtred, I know what you have sacrificed. I know how much it has cost you.
You have given everything, Uhtred. It was my choice. It is what I wanted to do. I've done nothing wrong. You know this.
Your actions have caused chaos.
seen by
Your
Danes
actions
as
have caused chaos. Yes, yes, ENTPs love chaos. Yes.
a Saxon and by
He's
Saxons
pragmatic.
as a Dane. My word could not be trusted.
I'm not an enemy of the king.
Even if that were true, what you are is a most dangerous ally.
I've heard of this Daneslayer and what he has done to our people for years.
Do you think there could be peace between Saxon and
When one side seeks to destroy the other, you must choose in order to survive. Are you one of us or one of them?
War is coming. You only have to choose a side.
Where does Uhtred stand? I wish to the gods we were not here.
A true Dane would not betray their family as you did.
I'm heartsick of battles.
Is this who they claim? The king of Northumbria?
I am no king.
How to be a king?
You hear that? I am no king.
You could be.
But you
Never
could be,
sought
see?
that
See?
kind of power. I have no dream to be a king. It has become of the warrior.
No dreams for your fancy titles. Even during the time when he saved Arthur, he saved him, and he was okay with not being written into history. He didn't care about that. Yeah. So yeah, awesome. Like,
There's no place.
this guy reminds me of my brother so much. I swear to God, like whenever we do something, my brother is like the greatest warrior. He's one of the greatest. Like when it comes to being a warrior and inspiring people and like just being badass, that's exactly what my brother is. But the cons of that, he will not stick around to actually do the governing. You know, I'm better at that than him. Like when it comes to like actually governing and stuff. But when it comes to being a charismatic warrior that everybody loves and flocks around, 100% just like Uhtred. But yeah, so Uhtred's ENTP. But the big thing here is we're gonna look at the actor. Okay, usually the actors tend to be the same type, but we're gonna see today is Alexander Dreymon a ENTP or not. We're gonna put that to test. Okay, so let's go to the chart here. ENTPs are initiating. They're informative. They're pragmatic. They're systematic, even though they don't really like stick to them very long, but they're systematic. There are TIFE and NESI. They're abstract as well. So that's in their progression. So they're journey focused. So let's get into a fancy break down the metrics here. If you guys aren't following us, so you got initiating versus responding. Initiating is all about an extrovert. The information for an extrovert is front brain centered. So the information travels a very short pathway. So they're going to be initiating more. They're going to be changing the conversation more. They will have no problem leading the conversation. As a responding, the information takes a little bit longer to get to the brain because the information has to travel all the way to the back of the brain, and then the person will reflect. So they're going to be more reflecting. They're going to be sitting. They'll be responding. They won't be changing the subject much. They'll just be, primarily staying on topic. Then you have abstract versus concrete. The abstract is all about the what if, what is possible. They care about the what is possible, not what is in reality or whatnot. That's going to be things outside of the five senses, contextual things, theories, that type of thing. And then you have the concrete, which is mainly the what is experiences, pretty much dry. They're not really caring about like the abstract world, what is possible. Then you have systematic versus interest or motive. Systematic people try to figure out the best way to do something. That's primarily what they're going to be looking after. They like to implement structures or systems into their life to get more control over it. That's mainly what you're going to be looking at there. And then you got interest versus motives. These people kind of like change how they do things based off the situation. They're going to be talking about people's behaviors, like what someone's getting out of a situation, what they get out of a situation. They're going to be more about what they get out of. They're going to always know what they get out of a situation. But they're going to be they're going to be beating down the motives of other people. Like, oh, this person doing this to get this, or they're doing this to do that, or this person doing that. That's more of an interest type thing. So you got direct versus informative. Direct is specific, concise, and to the point. Are they choosing their role in the conversation? Is it just easy to follow? Informative, beating around the bush, giving extra words. Passive, extra wordy, that type of thing. Then you got pragmatic versus affiliative. Pragmatic is like a utilitarian mindset. It's going to be individualistic. It's going to be rebellious, contrarian. They like freedom. Then you got affiliative. It's all about interdependence, cooperation, inclusion. They like roles to be assigned. They're going to ask for permission before they do something, as in pragmatic people are going to break rules and then ask for forgiveness afterwards. Then you got outcome versus progression. Are they looking at the end product, or are they on a journey? Are they looking how? And the thing about progression people is it flows like a wave. As an outcome, they're like, it's literally humming down for an outcome. Like everything is like centered to that end product. As in progression, it's like, you know, they're on a journey, man. If they get the outcome, is okay, but you know, the journey is the most important thing for them. Then you have SENI. SE is all about manipulating the environment. So when people talk, they're gonna be talking about like what other people are doing. They're gonna be referring things from a third person perspective. NI is all about the best path forward, what will happen, what is most likely to happen. These people will talk about like where they will be in the future. Most of the time, like I will be this in 2 years, or this will happen in 3 years, or that type of thing. Then you got SI. SI is all about the past. Reference the past to see the difference in today. They have internal sensations. They're mostly going to try to keep things consistent. They're going to try to make themselves comfortable. They're all about a first-person perspective. NE is all about the possibilities. They see many things that can be done. Brainstorming is another byproduct of that, giving other people choices, things like that of that matter. And you got TEFI. TE is all about outside sources. They're going to be referencing outside sources or what other people think. They will use like methodologies, statistics, like I said, like that. And then FI is all about what's important to them, what's important to them, their values. And then TIFE is all about, under that branch is understanding. They're all about understanding. Understanding is everything to them. Where they're trying to understand logical frameworks, and FE is understanding other people's values, understanding how other people feel, things like that. So let's get into this. So personality database is wrong about Uhtred, first of all. He's not an ESFP, he's an ENTP. Okay, and they have Alexander Dreymon as an ENFJ. Okay, ENFJs, let's go to the chart. This is gonna be a long one. So they're direct, they're affiliative, they're outcome, they're TIFE, SENI, abstract, and we said outcome. We said affiliative. Okay, that's all of them for that. But let's get into it. I'm thinking most likely it's got the entp. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and I'm so excited today to be joined by Alexander Dreymon to talk all about Netflix's The Last Kingdom in its final season. And the first thing that I actually wanted to talk about is the work that you did, kind of going back to the beginning with Penny Dyer, who was the dialect coach that you worked with on this series, because the two of you kind of came up with this accent for Uhtred, which has this real mix of kind of like British and Scandinavian tones. And because it's an accent that the two of you kind of landed on that really represented character versus it being something where you could really look to other material and kind of listen to a lot of it. I was interested in how you really found a lot of the inflections to adopt it, especially when you're working with television scripts and having to move so quickly with so much dialogue, because there's also such a musicality and a rhythm to the dialogue as well.
Absolutely, and I think the thing that you just mentioned is the key to it. There's like a musicality and a rhythm to Uhtred's accent that makes up so much more of it than just how you pronounce certain words. He was born a Saxon, but was raised by Danes, and we wanted him to have an accent that really stood out from everybody else. So the show took great care in casting Scandinavian actors for all the Danes, and then British actors for all the Saxons. And so we wanted Uhtred to be something, that didn't fit into either of those camps, because that's his story. And so we kind of started with a British base, and then made certain choices about how we pronounce the Z's as S's, and went a little bit harder on the T's, and I had a lot of help from Penny Dyer. I'm so glad you mentioned her. because she's been working with us for the whole 5 seasons.
Informative. Okay, we can ask this with informative.
And then the musicality.
And then progression. He is progression. Lord. That's one.
This sort of came organically. I think that just made sense out of the writing.
Came organically, progression.
And who this character was, and it became what it is now. It kind of grew on its own.
And you also talk a lot about how whenever you're developing a character that you really like to kind of inhabit them and take them out into the world, and obviously you can't take a full Viking out into the world, but there's aspects of his personality and kind of ways that you can play around with it. And so when you were developing the character of Uhtred, what are the aspects of him that you kind of tested out with people that you knew, or just walking into new situations and trying to respond to them as character?
Yeah, that was really fun at the beginning. So when we started shooting the show, my hair was a little bit longer than it is right now, but we obviously wanted Uhtred to have this, sort of wild look to him. So I got hair extensions, and very often women get hair extensions just around this part of their head, but I got the whole head. I went in the morning and came out about 8-9 hours later.
I did this, I did that. This guy's S-I-N-E. He's
and I looked like a caveman. And to have that wild hair suddenly, already gave me a lot just of how it felt to have that, because it's like an alien body on your head. But it also changes your look so dramatically.
Alien body on your head.
And I just mentioned that because I really noticed how people looked at me differently with that type of hair, and they were a little bit more careful, and depending also on, how you wear yourself. Like, for example, I had these scars that I got in makeup tests, and then I just would keep them on and walk around the city with them and interact with people. And the reactions you got were...
Interact with people, yeah, he's initiating. So he's walking around afterwards, interacting with people, he's initiating.
Very different. And I think one of the things that I always liked about Uhtred was that he was really mischievous, and I would just go out and play tricks on people and mess with them. And
I would do this, I would do that. He's S-I, he's initiating, playing with people, pragmatic. Okay.
There's one story that Harry McIntyre always makes fun of me.
He's just initiated that as well. And he's informative. I'm knocking him for informative. Informative. Yeah, he looks like an ENTP, which is hilarious. Okay, so with that being said, all the direct types are eliminated because he's informative. Let me just walk through the process here. This is going to be a long video, guys, because we combine both Uhtred and the actor. So infj is eliminated, enfj is eliminated, intj is eliminated, entj is eliminated, isfj is eliminated, estj is eliminated, isdp is eliminated, estp is eliminated, because he's informative, okay? And he's looking like a SINE, initiating, pragmatic. Going to be ENTP pretty quick.
Because I told it before, there was this couple who was sitting on a bench, and it was very romantic, and I would just come and sit right in between them and just hang out, and it was so awkward, and there's this kind of joy that comes with that, and that comes with putting yourself in strange situations. And
talking about putting yourself in strange situations, being uncomfortable. That's all.
And I think there's a liberty that comes with being in character, because as Alexander, I would never do such a thing, because I think, I'd be too worried to upset somebody, or, too embarrassed. But I think when you're playing a character, that gives you a lot of liberty, and I think
he's talking about freedom here. Liberty, freedom, pragmatic.
Uhtred has that I don't care thing about him that that really helped me at the beginning to get into the skin of who I was playing.
I love that
That's
you're
fun.
bringing up his very kind of like mischievous sense of humor, because that's one of the great aspects of him as a character. And even just thinking back to one of the moments in the last season where, you know, Ethelfled shows him kind of that secret garden, and he's like, "You mean we could have just been coming here the whole time and sneaking off together?"
That woman's coming off direct progression.
Yeah, those little moments were really important to me because the story just becomes so dire at points.
Just initiated there.
He goes through so many heartaches and terrible situations, and there came a time when I found it really difficult to still find these little bits of humor in there because it's hard to place considering the circumstances. So, you know, I'm very happy that little bits like that still made it through.
I mean, since it kind of got harder and harder to place with everything that he's going through, and that's really what stops it from feeling so claustrophobic with everything that he's going through as well. How would you kind of, obviously there's a moment like that where it's in the dialogue and it's very obvious that that's a great comedic moment, but there's other moments where you just kind of bring it through with certain looks and glances. And so how would you work to really find those moments?
Well, I gotta say a lot of that, I got a lot of help from Mark Rowley and Arnis Federa, which was, he's gonna kill me, I never know how to pronounce his name properly, but who plays Citric, and Mark who plays Finnan, and those guys are just the best. They always come up with insane ideas and improvisations, and they're so creative. And so I think playing off of them always helped me a lot to find these little moments of levity.
Mm-hmm. One of the other behind the scenes collaborations that I wanted to ask you about is that with Levante Lesak, who's the stunt coordinator and also horse whisperer, as you've deemed him as well.
Yeah.
In working with horses in stunt work, it's such an interesting dichotomy because there's a lot of moments where, you know, you're kind of going off into these battle scenes or having these very raw emotions, but obviously you're also riding a horse at the same time. And so you have to have that connection with the animal. You have to kind of still be controlling the animal and kind of give them a stillness of energy so that they're not going to be responding to the other aspect of what you're putting out in your performance. And I'm so fascinated with how you would work to find those two different energies, one for your performance and one to be able to kind of have that kinship with the animal that you're working with at the same time.
Yeah, that was such a learning curve. And, you know, you're so right about what you're saying. It's very important when you're on the horse that the horse still feels that you're in control. And
Talking about what the horse feels, that's FE.
That also means that you're in control of your emotions. But as you said, sometimes the scene requires you to just go right up until the edge and push yourself. And you know, at the beginning we had some close calls where you know, there was this at the end of the first episode when Uhtred rides up to the fortress and holds out the severed head to his uncle and yells, "Bebenber is mine." And you know, the horse really felt that I was in a lot of turmoil
Talking about the horse feeling the emotions is FE again.
And wanted to jump off that bridge, and there were spikes underneath the bridge. It was scary, but I think those are things that that's something that I think I'm always going to take with me to you know, you kind of have to operate on two levels, and I think that also is something that helps with directing, where you have to have two brains as an actor. I think to some extent, you need to know what's going on, and then you need to be able to be in your character and just let loose. And I think the other thing that I love about working with horses is that the more
So someone could say love is FI.
alive and in the moment you are, the more interesting you are in front of the camera. And because the horse requires you to have a constant back and forth, you kind of get that for free. You're always communicating. You always have to impose the limits because the horse is always searching for the limits and trying to push them and see if you're still the boss or if you've just, you know, checked out and it can do whatever it wants. I'm so sorry. I think I lost my thread there a little bit.
Yeah, you lost your train of thought. You're on a tangent, buddy. You're informative.
But did that answer your question?
Look at that.
It did. And you know, you're bringing up that idea as well of just needing
and he
to be
initiated
really
that. That's why he's like, you know, all right, we're hitting him for initiating. Okay, he's initiating. He's informative. Okay, so that automatically, if he's initiating and informative, that also makes him progression. But we knew that as well. Okay, what are we looking at now? So we're down to 4 types with initiating, informative, progression. That's ESFJ, ESFP, ENTP, and ENFP. Okay, and a couple more SI statements, SI any, and he's going to be hit for those, and the ESFP will be eliminated. We'll be down to ESFJ, ENTP, and ENFP.
Live and really present in the moment, and obviously so much of performing with your castmates is like that as well, with the listening that you're doing. And in the gift of working on a show for so long, there's that opportunity to really go into a scene and go into a moment and kind of access vulnerability more easily, because you have a sense already of what the other person is going to bring to the table, but you're also still working with new cast members at the same time as well, even in the final season. And so when you have a moment where you're working with someone new for the first time, do you find that there's more of kind of a focus for yourself on what you're bringing, as opposed to kind of sitting and looking at what the other person's going to bring to the table, because you don't know yet in that moment?
I think in whatever you do, it's so important to invest into the relationships with the people that you're working with.
That's FE, invest in relationship with the people. That's FE.
Just on a basic human level, first of all. But then also in terms of the work you can produce, I think if you first make sure that you establish a relationship with the person you're going to be working with.
My relationship, that's FE.
And try to get it to a level where you can start trusting each other, you can go so much further. And the most beautiful thing about this show was how much of a community we were, and how much of a family we still are. We are all very close and very very loving and respectful of each other's work. And I would hope that anybody who came in, even if it was just for a day, that they would have felt that and kind of felt included in that. And
that's more of an FE approach. Could be affiliative as well. Okay, but I'm just gonna put a point down for affiliative, but that's TIFE there, and that's enough to go ahead and knock that off. So that's enough to go ahead and knock TIFE off the board. So we're down to 2 types now. That's ESFJ. We gotta get better at this. ESFJ or ENTP. And that's pretty horrible, but you guys get the point. So the main difference between these two, ESFJs are concrete. They're both systematic, but one is concrete, and the other one is abstract. One is pragmatic, and one is affiliative. So these are going to be the 2 metrics we're looking at right here. These 2. This one, and we're going to be looking at this one, okay? These are going to distinguish. If he's abstract and pragmatic, he's the ENTP. He's concrete and affiliative, and he's the ESFJ, okay? So
I don't really remember any moment where it felt like there was any contentious energy going on with another actor. So
he don't remember a moment, so that's FE again.
That little bit of magic that you're talking about was kind of there from the start with most of the people that we worked with.
That's really amazing to hear. And jumping into some of the characteristics and traits of Uhtred, one of the things that's really lovely to see in him as a character is that even in the face of victory, kind of even in those moments in the final episode, he still always has a respect about him and a humility about him. And I think that's something that you always played to and always really honored in him as a character. And again, it's going back to that idea of the different energy shifts that you have to create within him as a character. You have to be able to show everything that he needs to pull on within himself, the confidence that he has to go into battle with. And then in the moments in between, you also get to really play to that humility and respect that he has, even for his adversaries. And so I was interested in how you always worked to play to those different sides and make sure that it always came back to that very grounded place.
Yeah, I think Uhtred really stands for a certain set of values, which, I adhere to pretty much all of them. As long as they're adjusted to the time that we're living in now.
See, he agrees with Uhtred's values and morals. Obviously, he's fucking ENTP too. So obviously he's adjusting them to the time period.
And
FE alone, FE again.
I think a lot of that also came from our stunt coordinator, Levente Lejac, who you mentioned before. He has that incredible humility about him naturally, and he does all this incredible work with his horses, and the stunts are really quite major. The responsibility that he has is very impressive, because you literally have armies going at each other, and everything that comes with that, the risk of injury, etc., and the precision that you need to have, but at the same time you need to get that violence in there and make it believable. And so he's a person who is totally on top of all of that, and at the same time has an incredible humility and an incredible kindness and softness about him. And I think he was definitely an inspiration for the warrior in Uhtred, and for those different levels of energy and how you can summon that, and he
energy summoning abstract.
He very often was a sounding board for me in terms of how much to let loose and how much to hold back, and how much violence to give out, and how much vulnerability to bring into it, and as you say, it's quite tricky sometimes to adjust those different things and jump back and forth within a fight or a battle. But yeah, he was a huge help in that respect.
Mm-hmm. And I also wanted to talk a little
bit. Bro was over here talking for 5 minutes on something that could have been like literally 10 seconds.
But about your jump into directing in this season as well with episode 2, because it also feels like that was such a great moment to get to direct. You have Uhtred's love interest finding out, that she's passing, and so you get to also, work with cast members on really pivotal scenes in the episode. And I know it's something that you'd been wanting to do for a long time, but obviously being the lead of the show, you're working every minute of every day. You're working during your days off and shooting, and so what was that process of working with the producers, who I know were incredibly supportive of this, to really kind of finesse and figure out how to make it work, even just schedule wise, and the way that you would be both preparing character wise for performances, and then also sitting there and storyboarding, or going through character beats, or looking at casting for supporting roles, and all of those elements, even going into post-production on the episode?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm incredibly grateful to the producers, first of all, to give me a shot at it and trusting me with it, and to the whole the whole cast and crew have been so wonderful in terms of making sure that I had the tools that I need in order to produce the best work that we all could give. And so first of all, working with a set of incredible actors makes such a huge difference, because you can go so much further. Millie, who you mentioned, her performance was just absolutely stellar, and continued to be so. And it was such a privilege to direct her in those scenes. And in terms of the schedule, I mean, that is, luckily that's not my responsibility. I kind of get the slots where I know, okay, now I have time to do this, now I have time to do that. And, during that time, I just knew that I was going to...
Oh, yeah, he's first person. I forgot to knock that off. So he's SIND. Doesn't like the responsibility that he was happy about not being...
Zero time to myself, and that was it. And I adored it. It was wonderful. There were times when I would be doing after I finished directing. We were in the edit, and I would be in front of the camera, and then they would call cut, and I would run to my computer, which was propped up on some medieval bench or a table or part of a house, and give editing notes and correspond with my editor, and then run back in front of the camera, and we kind of just made it work. It was definitely tough to juggle, but it was great. And you also get off on that adrenaline, I think, of just having to get it done. It is a show that has an incredibly tight schedule, so that was a challenge from the start to finish, especially while we were shooting. You just
he like that. Hey, he like that.
Have so much that you need to get done, and I think once you start, you're just riding that wave, and you just don't stop until you got it. I had a wonderful mentoring from the director who directed episode 1 and 3, Andy Hay, who gave me a lot of excellent advice, and who was incredibly supportive in the prep that we did. And for me, it's kind of all in the prep. I work as much as I possibly can before I get started, whether it's for acting or directing. And I think once you have a solid prep in place, then all of that becomes possible.
And looking back at aspects of your performance throughout the show, it's kind of remarkable to think about the number of times that you had to play to the idea of grief and loss in his life. And every single moment that you had to do that feels very personal and very different, and feels, you can really feel the different dynamic of what each particular loss means to him as a character, which is a really challenging thing to do, to be able to play to that same emotion, but always find different ways of doing so. And so how did you approach looking at each time that happened for him? Because even through the final season, that's still an occurrence, and losing someone like Brita is very different to, having his lover's head chopped off and thrown in his face as well, and so those are very different dynamics to have to find in your performance. And I was interested in that.
So wonderful to hear you say that you felt the difference and the nuances between all of these events. And I think
talking about what she felt, Effie,
the key is in what you just mentioned. It's to make it personal to yourself. And I saw that you interviewed Andrew Garfield not long ago, right? Or was that just his face up on the website?
Oh, it was just his. Yeah, I didn't interview him. I talked to the editors, but we did a live event with him.
Right. Well, he, I think, is just such a master at making it real for himself. Everything is so incredibly personalized, and I think that is, that is your job anyway as an actor, to make everything as true to yourself as you possibly can. But I think especially in events like that are quite, or can be quite repetitive, I think that's really how you get it done. You have to make it as precise and as personal and intimate as you can. And so I'm very glad that that it worked.
And he's also going through a lot of moments in this final season of kind of reimagining his future, both for himself and for his family. When his son is injured, it's, well, this is the life that I envisioned for him that he's not going to have now. What does that mean? In losing the person that he loves the most, even though they weren't together, he's mourning, holding on to that hope of what that could have been. And then there's still always the aspect that's underlying for him.
See, Uhtred was holding on to what could have been, knowing other people's past. What could have been would be abstract. That's Uhtred. And other people's path, that's NE. So, yeah, Uhtred's the entp.
Of that journey towards finding a sense of home that he's been going through since childhood, really. And how did you view his relationship with the idea that he always had for his future, and the way that he has to constantly step back and recalibrate that within himself?
Well, I think that's just so relatable to everyone. Everybody makes plans and then realizes that that's not how the world works. And I think for me personally, because I grew up in so many different places, the idea of a home is a very very alive subject in my life. What does a home mean, and what does
a home mean? TI, SI. He's getting to his own personal experiences a lot. Yeah.
Which things in life represent a home? Is it a place or is it people? Or, and so, you know, for Uhtred, I think that's one of the gifts that I got given with this character is to be able to play somebody who is so, you know, so real and struggles, even though he lives in the 9th/10th century. You know, he struggles with similar concepts than everybody does. You know, today.
Absolutely. And
could have answered that very shortly, but he took 2 hours to answer that.
Talking a little bit about those final moments of that final episode as well. You know, again, it's such a great performance in that moment, and you were working really closely with John East on that. And I know that the two of you had some conversations where you sat down before filming it to kind of go over, okay, these are kind of the key moments that we're going to be flashing back to in the montage, because obviously those clips hadn't all been pulled and edited together at that point. And was that a really useful tool for you going into that scene? And was there also kind of a catharsis in filming that moment, because it's also the emotion for you with him as a character, with everything that he's been through for 5 seasons, and then for you personally at the same time, it's you coming to the end of filming a show and your relationship with a character that you've sat with for so long.
Yeah, I love that you know so much about the whole process. I'm so impressed. That moment was definitely cathartic, and also just it was such a beautiful moment because John East and I have become really good friends, and he was the one who came up with the idea of even having that sequence in the first place, and he just talked me through all of these moments. You know, we of course we had a look at all the moments, so they were kind of fresh in my mind, but then he just talked me through it. And you know, once again, I got to go back to that feeling of trust that exists on that set. You know, it was a very vulnerable moment, and it's just so much easier to put yourself in that space and just be completely open and alive to that process of you know, I want to say osmosis. When you know that everybody around you is there to support you and lift you up. And so just hearing...
they made him feel his SI inferior. They made him feel really good.
Hearing John East talk me through those moments, it was very, you know, very easy to kind of let myself go and really feel the emotions that are connected to all of these...
Feeling the emotions.
To all of these moments. And it felt wonderful, and I'm always be grateful to him for, you know, giving me that opportunity and being there for me when I went through it.
And you've also spoken a little bit about how the experience of working on this show and playing this character for so many seasons has also instilled a real confidence that you have in yourself as an actor at this point, because you've had to play, you know, every single part of the emotional range, so many different scenarios, so many different types of scenes, so many different tones, even within singular scenes at this point. And I wanted to ask about what is that kind of difference in the confidence that you feel in yourself as a performer and as an actor from working on this show and playing this character for so long?
Well, I'm really excited to now build a new character. And I think that's where the next challenge is going to lie in my acting career.
Talking about the future. But
then, as you say, in terms of the emotional spectrum, I think so much of being able to do your job as an actor has to do with confidence and trusting yourself.
Guy talks like Leonardo DiCaprio.
And
he's also ENTP.
Having, you know, kind of done it all in that aspect, it just gives you so much assurance, and so it enables you to relax so much more, I think. So the next set I'll be going on, it's such a blessing to be able to come with all of that, you know, with all of that energy and weight, and you know, baggage, knowing that I'll be fine. I think that's it's a huge luxury and privilege, and I really look forward to seeing how, you know, how these different emotions are going to come out of a different person. Yeah.
And in looking back on your time playing Uhtred,
that's abstract. We're gonna go ahead and nail him. ENTP. Okay, so he's ENTP. Okay, with that said, let's go ahead and eliminate that shit. Okay, we don't want that. Okay. The actor Alexander Dreymon is a ENTP, just like Uhtred. So ENTPs are abstract, systematic, pragmatic, SINE, progression, informative, and TIFE. So this was a long one. I apologize. We combined both Uhtred and the actor all in one for you guys. So if you like the video, please comment below, like, comment, subscribe, and join our Facebook group and Discord. But this is Mongolian Mindset, and we're out.